The moment Gao Tu found out he was pregnant, his entire world froze. His mind went completely blank. He sat in the hospital room, staring at the test results with disbelief. It wasn't supposed to happen. Not to him. Not like this. The pheromone doctor, who had been treating Gao Tu for years, looked at him sternly. "Mr. Gao," the doctor said, "I strongly advise you to terminate the pregnancy immediately." The words cut through the air like a blade. The doctor's tone wasn't harsh for the sake of being cruel. It was heavy with professional concern. As a patient with a pheromone disorder, the doctor continued, "It is impossible for you to give birth safely on your own. Without the cooperation of your partner, you simply cannot carry this child." Gao Tu's lips trembled. He knew the doctor was right. He knew his condition made everything more complicated than it should be. But the thought of losing the child, this fragile new life growing inside him, made his chest ache with unbearable sorrow. The doctor sighed. He had seen countless omegas like Gao Tu before. He knew the risks, the pain, the heartbreak. "Out of responsibility for your life, I suggest you give up this child. It's the only safe choice." But Gao Tu's pale face lifted, his eyes filled with desperation. "Doctor, is there truly no other way? I've heard that artificial soothing pheromones exist now. Or maybe I could try using the pheromones of other alphas, the ones with a higher match rate than..." He stopped. He couldn't even bring himself to say Shen Wenling's name out loud. The doctor shook his head regretfully. "It's not practical. Artificial pheromones have very limited effect, and using other alpha's pheromones, it won't be enough. Look at yourself, Gao Tu. You've been vomiting, unable to eat, unable to sleep. Your condition is far worse than most omegas in early pregnancy. Even with outside help, it's almost impossible to get through this safely." For a moment, silence filled the clinic. The doctor, unable to contain his frustration, finally muttered under his breath, "That alpha you like, he's nothing but a scumbag." Gao Tu's head snapped up. His heart clenched. "He's not!" He blurted out, almost too quickly. Then, lowering his gaze, he mumbled softly, "It's my fault. All of this is my fault." The older Omega doctor's patience broke. He slammed the medical file onto the desk. "Your fault? How is it your fault? No matter what, you can't get pregnant by yourself. That alpha who despises omegas but still used you is the one at fault here. Doesn't he bear any responsibility at all?" But Gao Tu didn't want to answer. He didn't want to argue. He didn't want to explain. At this point, what was the use of blaming Shen Wenling? What was the use of talking about responsibility? None of it would change the situation he was in now. Instead, he quietly bowed his head and said, "Doctor, I know you mean well, but I want this child. I truly want to keep him." The words slipped out before Gao Tu could stop them. The shame that followed was immediate and crushing. He was openly admitting to someone else that he wanted to hold on to Shen Wenling's child, a man who had never loved him, who probably never would. For a long moment, Gao Tu couldn't even raise his head. But then, gathering the last of his courage, he asked in a trembling voice, "Doctor, why? Why can't I just use other people's soothing pheromones?" The doctor looked at him with pity. "Because your condition is already unstable. For omegas with pheromone disorders, it's 10 times harder to carry a pregnancy. Without the direct comfort of the child's biological father, your body won't cope. That's why you're suffering so much more than others." "Then what about artificial pheromones or pheromone extracts?" Gao Tu pressed, his desperation bleeding through every word. "Artificial pheromones," the doctor explained, "only work for a short time. As for extracts, yes, technology allows us to separate pheromones from blood. But even then, it's not guaranteed to help you. And honestly, Gao Tu using another alpha's pheromones to carry this child, it comes with moral complications too." Gao Tu's face burned red. The implication was humiliating. The doctor softened his tone slightly. "Of course, if there are volunteers, we can try extracting pheromones. But even then, your pregnancy would remain extremely dangerous. If you truly refuse to give up this child, you're risking your life." But Gao Tu only whispered, What if I can fight for it? The doctor blinked. What do you mean? Closing his eyes, Gao Tu forced himself to say the words he had been too embarrassed to speak. If I can get the soothing pheromone of the child's father, if I can get an extract from Shen Wenling, then I could save the child, couldn't I? At that time, Gao Tu still held on to a naive hope. He still believed Shen Wenling might be reasonable. He still believed against all odds that Shen would care even just a little. In fact, Gao Tu had even drawn up a plan. He had consulted lawyers, drafted contracts, and prepared documents. A property waiver, an inheritance waiver, a legal parent-child severance agreement. He had tried to erase himself from Shen Wenling's life completely, tried to prove that he wanted nothing from him except the child. He didn't want Shen's money. He didn't want Shen's name. He didn't want Shen's future. He only wanted this baby. But reality was far crueler than Gao Tu had imagined. After days of mental preparation, after countless sleepless nights convincing himself to do it, Gao Tu finally gathered the courage to speak to Shen Wenling. He rehearsed the words over and over again in his head. He thought that if he explained calmly, if he showed Shen the legal documents, if he begged just a little, Shen would at least agree to let him keep the child. But when the words finally left his lips, Shen Wenling's response was cold, cutting, and final. Of course, abort it. That was all. No hesitation, no guilt, no responsibility, just a single, merciless command. At that moment, the last bit of hope inside Gao Tu shattered. It didn't matter how hard he tried. It didn't matter if he begged on his knees. Shen Wenling didn't want the child. And he certainly didn't want Gao Tu. From then on, Gao Tu never brought it up again. He didn't ask Shen for help. He didn't plead a second time. He didn't dare utter another word about the baby, because deep down he already knew the truth. No matter what he did, artificial pheromones, extracts from strangers, even risking his life, it wouldn't be enough. This child was slipping away from him. And Gao Tu, who had wanted nothing more than to protect a piece of life born out of a fleeting mistake, could only sit in silence, swallowed by despair. And that's the heartbreaking reality of Gao Tu's struggle. A desperate Omega fighting against his own body, against the warnings of doctors, and against the cold rejection of the man he loved. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.